To our Muslim friends of the show, I would like to wish you a Ramadan Mubarak. Um, Ramadan Mubarak just means blessed Ramadan. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Muslim faith, um, Ramadan is the holiest month in the Muslim calendar because it is believed that is the month in which God bestowed unto Muhammad the Quran. Um, During this month, our Muslim friends will fast during the day. If you're practicing Muslim, they won't even drink water during the daylight hours. So if you've got a good friend, you know me, my normal greeting is, hope your coffee's as good as mine. Hell, I hope it's better. To your Muslim friends, no coffee. No coffee. Not because they can't have coffee, but because it's a diuretic and they will not drink water during the day. So no diuretics, no tea, no anything like that. If you want to do something kind for one of your Muslim friends, invite them to breakfast before sunup. Feed them before sunup. Juice and water, no diuretics, no tea, no coffee. Or invite them to dinner after the sun goes down. They will be thirsty and hungry. They abstain from any pleasures of the flesh or smoking or anything like that during Ramadan. So yes, Ramadan Mubarak to our Muslim friend. We have really interesting things going on right now. That's the wrong way to put it. Gross things. We have some gross things going on right now. Starting with what happened in the White House with Volodymyr Zelenskyy. This was an obvious setup. It was painfully obvious. And everybody caught it. Everybody caught it. And some of the journalists in the room were able to spot that Trump had, before the exchange in the Oval Office began, had turned and right before Brian Greene asked Volodymyr Zelenskyy the idiotic suit question, which I've got the video of here. We'll play that real quick and get it out of the way. Trump winks at him. What the hell was that all about? But you know, that's not how it started. It's not how it started. This is how it started. And you can tell, I mean, seeing it, you know, from having witnessed it, you know, you can actually, it's so freaking obvious that this was a setup. It's just disgusting.
Yes, I had ready clothes. Ready shut. He's all dressed up today.
President Trump, what's your message to Vladimir Putin, sir? President Trump, you got enough. President Trump, you got a message to Vladimir Putin.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, I mean, he's already alluding to it. The minute he gets to the White House, he's talking about how he's dressed. It was 100%. It was an ambush. It was. There was never anything serious about this. This is the exchange between Brian Glenn and Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Brian Glenn is he's a hack. He's not even anybody in the right-wing sphere. He's not. He is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, the guy that she cheated on her husband with. This is Brian Glenn. And just to give you some idea of how gross Brian Glenn is, Brian Glenn being in the middle, this is Frank Pavone on the left. Frank is a radical anti-abortionist. He's a defrocked priest. Yeah, when you're too gross and radical for the Catholic Church because of, you know, they believe in redemption. You got to go a long ways to get defrocked in the Catholic Church. disobeying his bishop was one of the things that they defrocked him for. He had multiple sexual harassment allegations against him. He's just a gross individual. So yeah, of course, that's who they, when you've got a function going on, that's who they would gravitate towards. I mean, this is not a nice guy. He's not. But yeah, he's somebody that Trump was winking at right before this exchange, and then this exchange happens in the White House, and it's just ham-handedly stupid. Even Karl Rove has come out to say this was incredibly stupid, and you cannot put this crap back in the horse. Once you've had this kind of exchange, you can't put the crap back in the horse. But let's start with the stupid suit comment, then we'll go to the heated exchange between Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Second question. My second question for President Zelenskyy. Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear
Second
My
question.
second question for President Zelenskyy. Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
Okay, I want you to look around the room, okay? First of all, why is J.D. Vance there? He's the vice president. This is not typically what you see. You normally see the president and the head of another nation sitting in, you've seen this before, the high back golden chairs in the Oval Office with the fireplace and you normally see this. It is just that level. You don't normally see this kind of group thing. And that's one of the things that even Republicans are calling out. This is a new thing. This isn't normal. And it just leads to these kinds of things happening because these things are, I cannot stress to you how choreographed these things are to prevent this kind of garbage from happening. But look at J.D. Vance's face. He's loving this exchange. But look at little Marco sitting there like a cuck. I mean, he is just absolutely destroyed at this exchange. Anybody that has any experience whatsoever, any diplomatic experience whatsoever, knows how incredibly, one, weird this whole thing was, and two, how damaging it is to our relationship that goes even far beyond Ukraine, but we'll get into it. Let's just get this out of the way and finish it.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting.
I don't have such. I will wear costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe
something
like
like
this.
yours. Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for.
Ridiculousness. It's just set up from the beginning. And we'll talk about why here in a minute, but let's finish. It actually got worse. Believe it or not, it actually got worse and stupider.
Yes, you will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and
of
he
the
happens
war.
to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Braha,
position.
I
You don't
was
have
in-
the cards right now. With us, you start
I'm
having
not playing
cards. But
cards.
right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
Yeah, you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What
III.
what do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
We-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people.
Yes, you
Don't-
will.
Trump is an imbecile. He is an imbecile. That was one of the stupidest exchanges I've ever seen in my life. You know, Trump sits there and sucks up to people, dictators all over the world. And to sit there and talk that way to an ally, to disrespect an ally that way, it's disgusting. It was gross. And he was factually wrong about all of the assertions he was making. He really was. And this has been the response. This is from the Daily Mail, folks, or the Mail. Okay, same paper. They've got a Sunday paper they call the Mail. They've got a daily paper they call the Daily Mail. Sister papers, same group, same organization. This was their response. I cannot stress to you how conservative this paper is. This paper normally gloats about Trump and the right wing and Republicans here in the United States. This was an actual, this shocked everyone to come out of the Mail. This just shows you how poorly received this is all across the world. This is their front page after this happened, after this exchange happened. And it isn't one of those things like you see on Fox News where something happens and then they'll get their talking points together the next day. No, it's just continuing on. Linda Orndorff, thank you for the support. I really appreciate you. I want to know what we Americans are going to do when Trump wants to send military aid to Russia, because in my opinion, that is next. Will that be enough? Well, I will tell you, Republicans are trying to circle around this. Foolishly, they're trying to circle around this. Lindsey Graham is out making asinine statements. You've got Republicans all over the country say, well, Zelenskyy owes Trump an apology for that exchange. First, they tried to spin it as, because J.D. Vance is, you need to say thank you, and you need to say. News organizations all over the world, all over social media, are posting every single time. There have been 32 times in which there has been an actual state thanking of the people of the United States of America for their assistance and support. And you've got J.D. Vance there claiming like it just never happened. It's never, these people, to say they live in their own reality and are intensely stupid just doesn't do it justice. It just doesn't do it justice. It's not every day you witness the beginnings of a new world war. I have to tell you, this is going to be a this is the beginning. When you go back and study this, our children study this in history, they're going to talk about this, like we talk about the Yalta Conference, and we talk about, Potsdam Conference. We talk about, they will talk about this meeting as the beginning of the realignment of the world order. They will. Marcia Klepper, I read where Zelenskyy wears that same shirt every day because he was given almost all his money to his people who are hungry and often doing with it. Yes, he's an incredibly generous man. He is, look, while this was going on, and you had little Marco sitting there, like I said, I had no other way to put it, but he was a complete cock. This is supposed to be our Secretary of State, people. They are an completely incompetent group of clowns and fools. And again, it's just simply, it's not being received well anywhere in the world. The Mail, again, going back to the Mail, this wasn't a one-day thing where they did a hit and run and, oh, well, now we're back on the talking points. No, their Sunday paper, now stop the state visit. There's a clamoring all over the United Kingdom. You remember when Keir Starmer came and also corrected Trump for making inaccurate statements about Ukraine? Keir Starmer brought with him an invitation for another visit with the king and a state visit. The UK is screaming for that visit to be canceled. I don't see it being canceled because the British are very much, they'll let someone else be a fool and then try to fix it. They will. I don't know that, I don't see it being canceled. I don't. But the people of the United Kingdom, and we have several people in the audience from London here that come regularly. I'm sure they're here again today. You can ask them. There is very serious desire among the British people to cancel that state visit. Oh, God. Thanks for letting us know, Scott. Just stupidity. Because, the Americans are lined up to make tortillas. But folks, when we would have sporting events in Canada, they play the Canadian anthem, they play the American anthem. A lot of times the Canadian people would sing along. I played a clip before. They just had another one. I'm not going to play the clip of it, but you're more than welcome to look at it. They just had a WWE, that fake ass wrestling stuff, event in which the crowd began to boo. It was in Ontario. The crowd began to boo when the American anthem started getting played. And these are our best allies in the world. They really are. England and Canada and Mexico were our closest allies. They are literally booing our anthem now. Mike Myers, who is Canadian, by the way, you know him as the star of Wayne's World, the voice of Shrek. He's made several appearances, and he was a record producer in the Queen movie Bohemian Rhapsody. He made an appearance on SNL. Go watch it, wearing a shirt that says Canada is not for sale. This damage is going to be lasting. Shaking my head. This is exactly why Trump put incompetent idiots in his cabinet. We are being handed over to Putin. Hold that thought. Thank you, Vincent. I appreciate you. Hold that thought. Zounds Treetop. Rep Jeffries deletes all comments on his channel. We need a new mind. Oh, shut up. Leave. I've got no patience for that bullshit anymore. Get the fuck out of my channel and never come back. We're in the middle of a fight for our lives, and I got you dumbasses shooting us in the ass. Shut the fuck up and get out. Chris, my family fled North Korea a generation ago. I cried after seeing him this meeting. I hear you. I hear you. A lot of people did. A lot of people did. And I meant what I said. Mods, block that son of a bitch. If he doesn't have the decency to leave on his own, block him. The UK has been a steadfast ally. Yes, they have. They have. Sherry Foster, here's to Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Don't listen to Donald Trump. That old boy is totally insane. He is insane. He's pudding brain. That's why Vance was there, because Trump was totally just manhandled by Macron, by Keir Starmer. He's making statements that are just obviously nuts. That's why those people were there. It doesn't normally happen that way. It's normally the president and the head of state sitting there. They take a few questions. That's it. It's never as long as this is going on. Trump has lost his mind. He's old, folks. It happens. It happens to old people. We do. I'm not nearly as sharp as I once was. I used to be able to tell you what my high school gym locker combination was. up until about 10 years ago. I could literally tell you what combinations were, telephone numbers in residences I lived in and other places, things like that. You just lose your fact. Trump has lost his mind. Andrea Ordonez, if the U.S. is seeking mineral rights in Ukraine, what happens if Russia takes control of Ukraine? Thank you. I love that you folks are also always so far ahead of this. This is a big problem with what Trump is claiming he's trying to do there. Would Russia then grant the U.S. 51% of mineral rights in newly acquired territory? Hell no, they wouldn't, because Trump is going to give those mineral rights to Putin. And I'll explain why here in a minute. I'm on it. But let's finish this up. The next day, Volodymyr Zelenskyy went to the UK. This is the greeting he got. Keir Starmer reassured Volodymyr Zelenskyy that the people of the UK were behind him. People turned out to express how much they actually support Ukraine. Meanwhile, you have Lindsey Graham. I'm serious. Lay people showed up at number 10 Downing Street to greet Volodymyr Zelenskyy and let him know that they have his back because of the way he was treated here. Meanwhile, you have Lindsey Graham going out there talking nonsense, stupidity, saying that Trump deserves an apology and Europe doesn't like it. Europe needs to learn to defend themselves so that we don't want any part of defending Europe anymore. Which leads us to Donald Trump's boss. Yesterday, if you don't know, Gunther Eagleman is just right. If you saw a right-wing pile of dog shit that had a Republican, emblem on it, that would be this guy. I mean, he's useless, worthless. But Elon Musk elevates his account all the time. Says it's time to leave NATO. The president's boss says, I agree. Coinciding with Lindsey Graham out there talking about how we need to, Europe needs to defend itself and yada, yada, yada. Folks, you cannot put this shit back in the horse. You can't. You just can't. And I've talked about it before. I've talked about it many times. Europe has been preparing for this moment since the last Trump administration. It was a real wake-up call that someone could be as broken as Trump is, and show the kind of fealty to someone who obviously has to say Putin has designs on Europe, it is, again, a massive understatement. You have to understand where Russia comes from to understand exactly. If you don't understand, all right, let me put it this way. How many of you folks have heard of a P-51 Mustang? How many people have heard of a Hellcat or a Hurricane or a Spitfire? One second. I'm sorry about the dead air. 1 second. You've heard of, you've heard of those aircraft, right? I mean, you've heard of those aircraft, right? How many of you have heard of a Yak? How many of you have heard of a Yak? I'm finding you a Yak. A little bit blurry. Should have given it a little bit more time, but yeah. How many of you have heard of a yak or yakaba? Not many. Not many of you, I'm sure. And you wouldn't be able to spot one. I mean, pick one out if you saw one on the ground. It was a pretty damn good airplane. It was a pretty damn good airplane. But you never really heard about them much because right after the Germans attacked Russia, they pretty much well decimated the Russian Air Force. I mean, almost completely. That's why you never really hear much about Russian aircraft. I mean, it's not that they were bad. The Yakovlevich was a good plane. It was a good plane. It just didn't play a significant role because of what Russia lost. Russia lost more men in the siege of Stalingrad than we lost in all of World War II. You need to understand that when someone like Putin, old KGB, when someone like that looks at Europe and the former Soviet republics, they feel they deserve that land. They feel they paid for that land in blood. They feel they deserve Ukraine. And that is the point of view that they are coming from. And you can never forget it. And Trump is way too stupid to understand anything complicated or to be able to, he does not have the ability to look at someone else and do that kind of thought processes. Where is that man coming from? What is that man's point of view? What are his desires? Trump is arrogant and ignorant enough to think, well, you know what? I'm so good, I'll just make a deal and people do what I say. He really believes that insanity despite being an utter business failure. I mean, this man, you cannot say it enough, bankrupted a casino, Carl. He bankrupted a casino several times. He does not have the ability to look at Vladimir Putin and know what that man thinks, believes, and desires. To Putin, it is an affront that we oppose them and their desire to take back Soviet land. In Putin's mind, they paid for it with Russian blood. Ryan, not confident things will end up in the history here in Sarasota. They want to rename Route 41 to Gulf of America Trail, saying compliance is the same as changing a street's name to MLK Boulevard. Man, yeah, we cannot count on the Republicans for anything for our country. We just can't. Do I think Europe and Ukraine will defeat Russia? I think, you want my honest opinion on that? This is leading to another land war in Europe. It's already a land war. Ukraine is Europe, so it's already a land war in Europe. I'm talking about a multi-nation land war in Europe. I have told you folks about what Poland thinks about this. Judah, the head of Poland, was very vocal about this. Very vocal about this. Poland is not going to do this again. They're not. And no, it's not Zelensky's fault. It's Trump's fault and it's Putin's fault. They are marching us down that road. And I will tell you, while all this disgusting stuff was going on, this plan thing with Brian Glenn, they thought that, would be like red meat for their base. While all that was going on, this is what Putin was doing. Russian drone strikes hit medical facility, other targets in Kharkiv. This is our corporate media doing this again, sane washing. It's not a medical facility. It was a hospital. It was a hospital. While the Trump regime was planning to ambush the president of Ukraine, Putin was destroying a hospital in Ukraine. And our corporate media sane washes it. We'll call it a medical facility. So people think it's like it's clinic or something, you know, the system. It was a hospital. And you're asking Volodymyr Zelenskyy about wearing a suit. I don't give a damn if he dressed like fucking Santa Claus. That man has seen atrocities in his own country. His country is currently invaded by an army that believes it is entitled to his entire country. And he is fighting for his life. And our idiot president and vice president and secretary of state and morons like Marjorie Trader Green, the elevator flatulator, and her disgusting freak of a boyfriend, Brian Glenn, think this is a good idea. You know, if you vote, Cape Mary Light, if you vote and actually give Democrats power in the midterms, yeah, we could get rid of both of these people. We could. And I've got to tell you, they're not inevitable. They're not inevitable. Right now, you have Trump has just lost another major battle. He did. He just lost another major battle. The 2025 project was designed specifically the way it was. Like I said, they've been planning this for 5 years. They designed it specifically so that responses would take time, so that they could get this air of inevitability, put everyone on their heels, and they can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, it didn't work out like they had hoped. Nobody's knuckled under, cowed down. Nobody. I'm not doing it. I'm not putting up with it. But I got to tell you, they're losing. They're losing every one of these fights. Judge Amy Berman Jackson just ruled against them in firing. He fired Hampton Dellinger, he's the head of the Office of Special Counsel. And they lost using an argument that was a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court back when Roosevelt tried to fire Humphreys. William Humphrey was appointed as the head of the Federal Trade Commission back in 1925. Roosevelt didn't feel that he was adequately supportive of the New Deal. So he fired him. Said, I'm the boss, you're fired. The Supreme Court unanimously said, no, the Federal Trade Commission is not under your fealty. They are specifically designed as a check on your power. You cannot just willy-nilly fire the head of the Federal Trade Commission. They said there are specific guidelines as to why you can fire someone: inefficiency, neglect of duty, malfeasance in office, and that's about it. You cannot fire them over a policy disagreement. And it was unanimous. It was unanimous. It's Humphrey's executive versus the U.S. Look it up. And we're going to find out if this Supreme Court, because we have several members of the Supreme Court that are believers in the unitary executive theory. A king. We have a king. But I think it's going to be a 5-4 decision when it comes down to it. Trump is losing, folks. I told you. This would happen. And what's you have to keep in mind is it's just getting worse and worse and worse for them every day politically. So by the time these things go through the Supreme Court, they're not going to be in this. The honeymoon's been over. I mean, we're only a little over a month in, and the honeymoon has been over. These are Republicans. This is the kind of greeting Republicans are getting back in their districts. Folks, this is from Tennessee Holler. I highly recommend you follow them. Great news source, especially for all things in Tennessee, but they do touch on national news. Highly recommend it. They are a good follow. This was shared by them. This is Kansas Rep. Roger Warren. Watch what happens here.
Is doing right now as far as cutting out those jobs. A huge percentage of those people, and I know you care about the veterans, are veterans.
Yes.
And that is a damn shame.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a damn shame.
I'm not a Democrat, but I'm worried about the veterans, man.
Well, I yielded to one of my elders, and I appreciate his comments. I think it's a great. We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
We're gonna take pictures with you, buddy, right?
Yeah. Those are Republicans, folks. Those are not Democrats. You have one guy he specifically wants to make it clear, I am not a Democrat, but I support our veterans. They are not happy about this. This guy just gets up and walks out. And they're telling their representatives, don't hold any more town halls. You had one rep that if you want to see it, I'll play it next week. She's screaming at her constituents that they're paid Democrat plants. Folks, every accusation from a Republican is a confession. That tells you right there, they are paying people to go out to Democratic town halls. That right there tells you all you need to know. Yes, Mike Bundy, we will persevere. We will persevere. Thank you for the support, my friend. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And this whole we got to leave NATO thing, no, that doesn't fly well, even among the gross MAGA people. And then there are things like this that happened during that exchange at the White House. TASS, the Russian news agency, was among the press pool and videotaping. They were live streaming that. To Russia while it happened. Folks, that's not done by accident. It's not. Jeremy Breeden, I would have walked out of those on those morons if I were Zelenskyy. He handled it perfectly. He didn't take any shit off of them. He wasn't, overtly rude. He handled it like a statesman. But I want you to just, this whole TASS thing. Folks, they've kicked the AP, they've kicked Reuters out of the press pool, but they've brought in the Russians for this exchange. They allowed a Russian in the Oval Office who's not part of the press pool to stream back to Russia. You know that this was a setup. You know. Yeah, Senator scurries out in shame from his yeah. It's happening all over. All over. But I want you to take a look here at how our corporate media is sane washing this whole TOS reporter thing. This is, if you do a search for it, these are the headlines. Russian state media reporter gained entry to Oval Office for Zelensky's sit down. Not that they're responsible for him being there, that the Trump regime brought a reporter in from Russia. No. He just gained entry. White House removes Russian state media reporter from Oval Office. No. That's a lie. He was allowed to stay for that entire exchange. Now they're trying to backpedal and say, oh, well, he wasn't part of the, he shouldn't have been there. Look at these headlines. Russian state media briefly enters Oval Office. No, he was there for that entire exchange. Trump administration kicks Russian state news agency out of Zelenskyy meeting. No, he was allowed to stay for the entire exchange. He was allowed to video. Russian state media reporter gained Oval Office access. Russian state media reporter sneaks in to Oval Office. That's just the one that was just incredibly over the top. They're trying to sane wash this. There's something I want to share with you. This is another one that I want, and you have to bear with me for a minute. TikTok just hogs internet resources. So I didn't have this pulled up for you. It's going to take me a second to pull up for you. This is under the desk news. Folks, V. Vedas is a great follow. She is a great follow. She covers news events that are happening every day. I have been to the White House. I have sat in these rooms that she's about to show you, but she's put it all together for you. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. She does an amazing job here. Follow her. If you're on TikTok or Instagram, Under the Desk News is a great follow. Her takes are usually spot on. I want you to watch this, where she's talking about this TOS reporter sneaking into the Oval. Anybody that's been there immediately called bullshit on that. And she nails it here, the process.
The idea that the Russian state media accidentally made its way into the Oval Office is absolute bullshit. It cannot happen. Let me walk you through it as a person who's been in many of the press briefing rooms on the White House campus and in the Oval Office twice. When you're invited to the White House, you have to provide your social security number and other identification to Secret Service.
That is true. That is true. Before you are allowed, when they were talking to Old Texas Paul, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? Come to the White House. We want you to sit in on a strategy meeting." I had to give them all of my documentation a month in advance. They had to do a complete background check on me. That is everyone. You cannot walk into the White House.
Service usually about 2 weeks, if not a month ahead of time. That's checkpoint one. You get cleared for invitation. The night before or the day of your White House visit, they will tell you which one of the entrances to the White House you are to report to and at what time. They run your ID, they match you to your appointment, and an aide from the White House comes to this security checkpoint to gather you. You're often held in a...
That is absolute fact. That is absolute fact. They tell you can't just pick what entrance you go in and say, "Hey, Old Texas Paul here. I'm ready to talk to the president. I've got a strategy meeting I'm attending." No, they tell you exactly when and which entrance to show up at. And when you show up there, you stand outside and wait and hope it ain't raining. And you wait and you wait and you wait until someone from the White House that knows you're coming gets informed that you're there. You've made your appointment time. They come and get you. And they walk you, they escort you, not into the White House. You do not go into the White House first. You do not.
In a diplomat's holding room in the Eisenhower building, which is within the security compound of the White House. That's where I am here. And to get in here, you have to go through a set of metal detectors. You're held here for a little while and you are issued your first badge. This one has a number and a letter on it, and that means that you are allowed to be on the White House complex. While you're here, you might run into some of your elected representatives, or you might go over here, which is one of the White House briefing rooms. You have to go through, you guessed it, another set of security checkpoints to get in here. And another set of security checkpoints to go to the East Wing of the White House, which is where I met with John Kirby once. Things are a little different if you are going to end up in the Oval Office or in the West Wing. If
Very
you're in the
different.
West Wing, you get held in this room called the Roosevelt Room. That room connects to the Oval Office. You are
She's kind of glossing over here. Even though you are invited, even though you have been brought into even though you have been approved, even though you have an escort, that escort must check you in. They don't just let you into each layer of the White House. They must check you in and explain your presence there. This is some of the most tightly controlled security on the face of the planet. Period.
You are issued a different badge once you get into the West Wing, and that is a badge that cannot be photographed. The president will come into the Roosevelt Room, then they will line you up single file. They will take everything you own, your watch, your pens, your cell phones, all that kind of stuff before you go into the Oval. You will do whatever it is you're going to do in there, and then you will be escorted out by another aide. It is a similar process to get on the campus of the vice president's residence, to get into the Pentagon, and to get into the building where your senators and congresspeople's offices are. There is no way that a Russian state media journalist was able to get the idea that the
V did an amazing job there. Thumbs up, hats off. Love Under the Desk News. Absolutely spot on job explaining the process. I will tell you something. One of the fastest ways on this planet to die would be to barge into the Oval Office. An entire unit of security would fall on top of you immediately. I don't care if you're press or not. This entire process she's talking about is spot on. Even if you are part of the White House press corps, you cannot walk freely in the West Wing. So the notion that TASS was anything other than escorted in and invited is laughable on its face. But here you have our corporate media saying, washing this crap, going along with the talking point. Oh, he wasn't supposed to be there. We kicked him out. Yeah, no, yeah. He barged in. He snuck in. Bullshit. You invited him. You invited him for this frickin' setup. You invited him so that Putin could see and the Russian people could see you attacking Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Thank you for the support, Helen. I truly appreciate you being it. Could not do this job without you. And folks, look, I'm just, you need to understand how much bullshit all of this narrative is. This whole, I'm trying to get Volodymyr Zelenskyy to sign over mineral rights because we gave him a lot of money, and the Europeans, they're going to get money, they're going to get their mineral rights. So I make good deals. So I'm going to get us mineral rights for our money is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And I can tell you why from the get-go. I can tell you why they're saying it, because MAGA they're dumb enough to buy this stuff. I mean, it's a really simple narrative. We gave them a lot of money. You didn't want us to give them. Democrats gave them money. You didn't want them to. I'm going to get our money back. Bullshit. No American mining company has any interest at all in establishing mines in Ukraine. None. For multiple reasons, but there's three main ones. First of all, there has not been a modern, accurate geological survey of Ukraine's minerals. Everyone is operating off like a 25-year-old Soviet, 30-year-old Soviet era survey. No American mining company has any interest at all in mining in Ukraine. They don't. Pamela Bradley, thank you for supporting the show. I appreciate you. All Zelenskyy is asking for is guaranteed to continue protecting them and help them fight Russia, and he'll additionally give them shared mineral rights. It's Trump that doesn't want peace. That is all true, except for the motivations behind the mineral rights. When you understand that point and why there is no American company waiting for those mineral rights where we're going to make money, folks, it takes a year or better to set up a mine. It costs $1 billion to set up a mine. It takes years to do accurate geological surveys in order to establish where to set up those mines. None of that has been done. No American company is going to invest that money. Why? Security. Everyone knows. Even if for some reason Volodymyr Zelenskyy just takes the pulse of his people and his people are done with war, that's not the end of it. Even if they made a peace deal, that's not the end of it. Putin thinks he is entitled to Eastern Europe. He believes they paid for it with Russian blood. Even if they made a peace deal, Russia would still actively influence Ukrainian elections and force control of Ukraine back under Russia. No American company is going to invest the kind of money it would take to establish mines in Ukraine just to lose them to Russia. No one's going to take that gamble. No one. So this whole notion, this whole grift that somehow he's in it for the mining rights is a lie. He's going to give those mining rights to Putin. You need to understand that. This is not about America first. There's no one, I'll say it again, no one in America that is going to go down that road. You remember why I kept explaining why we were so slow to give military resources to Ukraine? Because the outcome wasn't guaranteed and we didn't want those weapons coming back at us? Because it's a very real possibility, even if a peace is negotiated, that Russia ends up controlling Ukraine. Same thing. Same thing about mineral rights. This is in no way about America first. This is securing those mineral rights for Putin to keep them away from Europe and European governments. Because if you can make it, it's just so simple. War is young men dying and old men making money. If Putin can secure those mineral rights, which he will, if Trump gets them, Putin has them, then Europe doesn't have the financial incentive to fight for Ukraine. War is young men dying and old men making money. And if there's no money to be made, they will not send their young men to die. This is literally Trump acting for Putin to try to disincentivize Europe from supporting Ukraine, which will be a long-term deal. It was obvious in stage, Jane. It was. And thank you for supporting the show. Al Yorkie, thanks for keeping the truth out there. That's my job, folks. That's my job. And yes, he has no clue what he's talking about. Talking about rare earth and he does. He calls them raw earth, but trying to talk about rare earth minerals. The majority of the minerals that we know about from the old Soviet eras, there aren't a whole lot of rare earth, what qualifies as a rare earth mineral there. And people are like, well, they want the lithium for Elon Musk for batteries. Folks, there's a massive, massive lithium deposit in Arkansas. Arkansas, Missouri, that whole area. No one has to go to Ukraine to get lithium. There's 30 years worth of lithium in Arkansas with no security problems whatsoever. If you're an American company, are you going to go to the risk, the $1 billion risk? When you could mine it in Arkansas? It's insane. It's insane. Exactly. It's agitprop. Well done, ET. It is. It's agitprop. It's just pure falsehood. It is pure falsehood. And I'm sure they do want gallium because most of our gallium comes from China, and it is critically important to all electronics production and manufacturing. But no, there's no guarantee that Ukraine has gallium. In fact, even the old Soviet maps don't show any significant amounts of gallium there. Folks, if you just reason it out and you look at it from not the Fox News bullshit talking points that you get all the time, and you just start saying, okay, let's see how the rubber meets the road here. This serves no one in the United States of America. No one. It only serves Putin. Period. And it's painfully obvious. But you've got our corporate media doing things like sane washing TASS being in the Oval Office. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Yeah, lithium is everywhere. It is. It's everywhere. Lithium is literally everywhere. You could find there's nothing rare about lithium. It's a pain in the ass to process. It is. But there's nothing, which is another reason. Why would you want to go to Ukraine to get lithium in a place with no security when it is so problematic to process it? Wouldn't you rather do it in, I don't know, Arkansas? Where the governor there doesn't give a crap about his people and you can be as dirty as you want to be? Mr. Martinez, thank you for being here, sir. He is. He's an absolute con man. And he is. He is Putin's bitch. And more people on the other side of the aisle are starting to say things like, none of this makes sense unless you look at it from the point of view that Putin owns Trump. And I will add in, it's worse than that. Trump has lost his mind. He is putting for brains. He cannot remember something from a couple days ago to a week ago. He can't. His mind is gone. They're gone. Veggie Allegro. If America becomes the new enemy of Europe, what happens to our military bases? At this point, we're not looking at being enemies as much as we are just not allies anymore. And if you're not an ally, you don't get to have bases there. You know, like old Lindsey Graham is saying, Europe needs to learn to defend itself. Well, we got some pretty nice bases there they could take over as a start. Some pretty nice facilities. All they have to do is say, leave. And everybody sees it happening. Everyone sees it happening. But everyone knows we've got an entire segment of our population. This is like that segment of the population during World War II that wanted to enter that war on the side of Hitler. Wanted to enter that war on the side of Hitler. They existed. You know, they like to portray that there were two camps here in the U.S. That there were one group of people that just were isolationist and didn't want any part of war at all, and then the other part was the ones that wanted to support the Allies. That's not true. There were three camps. There were the people that thought Hitler was a monster and needed to be fought, and we needed to be supporting our allies. There were the isolationists that did not want to go to war with anybody. They're like, hey, we've got oceans on both sides of us. We're safe. This is not our fight. Not our fight. You're going to hear that a lot out of the Trump campaign, the Trump regime, pardon me. Not our fight. But there was a third faction. You know, the most popular part of that faction was Henry Ford, who absolutely wanted to enter that war on the side of Germany. They did. We have those factions here in the United States today that are actively working for Russia, and they control the White House right now. That is what this is like, is if that faction that wanted to enter the war for Hitler controlled the White House and the levers of power at the time. That's what we have now. Europe is slowly waking up to this fact. Lou, thank you for the support, my friend. Europe is slowly waking up to that fact. They are. And I'm sorry. I can't say it enough. I can't apologize enough to the people of Ukraine. I can't apologize enough to Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I cannot apologize enough to our European allies that have been with us for 3/4 of a century and longer. I can't apologize enough, but it is really happening. It is really happening. You have to understand who runs this country now and who their allies are. And yes, it's going to blow up on them, but I will say it again. Even a weak and feckless president can do a lot of damage. A lot of damage. And Europe, I'm not saying this the way Lindsey Graham is saying it. I'm not. I'm saying this as a friend. NATO is over. It's over. As we know it, it's over. American defense, our willingness to bankrupt ourselves to be the world police, that's over. We no longer represent your best interests as allies. This president is owned. He's weak. He's doddering. He's sundowning. And the people around him have fealty to Russia. And that's just our reality now. Sherry Ellison, all our military come home to find they have no jobs now. Welcome home. Yeah. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. I have no idea. I have no idea. I really don't. Just your mind will have to sort that out. But it's really happening right now. I've been saying for years that getting the money out of politics is a national security issue, and you are right. You are right. The problem is there's never been a government where that's actually happened. The reality is money will always be in politics. Always. Always. There's never been a government that was not influenced and controlled by the wealthiest among us. There's only been varying degrees of us people coalescing together and demanding fair treatment. And that's what's so disgusting about this, folks, is, the American, we talk about this all the time. Our European friends, we talk about the American dream. Yeah. All it is let me go out, let me get a job, let me have a family a home where my family's safe. We don't even demand the extras that our European counterparts get. The health insurance, the benefits, all of that. We don't even demand that in the American dream. And they're looking us right in the eye and telling us not enough. It's not enough. And that's really happening right now as we speak. And we've got jackasses like that moron up there attacking Hakeem Jeffries, who thinks that we have time for that nonsense. We don't. Because what's below the American dream? Because they're looking at you and they're telling you that's too much. Sally, as Trump is giving America to Elon and Putin because he owes them for his presidencies in 2016 to 2024. It's more than that. It is more than that. There's something way more than that. Oh yeah, they've been talking about that forever. I mean, it's insane the things they're talking about. It's insane. Thank you for supporting the show, by the way. But folks, it's time that we started to have that conversation. The American dream is just, let me go out, let me work my entire life for someone else until I'm old and broken. Let me do that. And then once I retire, let me have a home to live in and food on the table. That's it. That's the American dream that we all talk about. And they're looking you dead in the eye and telling you that's too much. Okay. What's below that? Well, I suggest you do some reading about the 1930s and 40s here in the United States. Multi-generational households. Grandma, the breadwinner, the mom and dad, the breadwinner, and then their children, and then their children's children, all living in the same house, bunked up together. That's where we're going, folks. First stop, Medicaid. Repeal Medicaid, which is what grandma uses to live in the old folks' home. That's going away. Where does grandma go? Back into your house or the street. They're telling you, folks, they're telling you, in everything they do, they're telling you directly to you. They want this experiment over. And I can't even on our side get people to just march against that. They're so busy trying to be smart. Hitler's mistake was declaring war against us. We might have stayed out of Europe if he hadn't, because the Pacific was enough for most Americans. We were going to get into that. We were going to get into that war. That faction had won. Randy, I am thinking, thank you for always being here, friend. I am thinking, look, even Republicans are showing up at town halls. They're losing their base slowly but surely. This whole breaking up NATO thing, even on the right wing, that doesn't fly. That doesn't fly. Right now, we have a budget resolution with no lines in it. It's just pledges to cut Medicaid, pardon me. It's pledges. That's going to happen a lot, folks. A lot of you wrote me a lot, several of you, at least a dozen emails of people when I said Medicare instead of Medicaid, when I obviously was talking about Medicaid. That's going to happen with me a lot. I don't know what it is about those two words, but when I go to say Medicaid, often I will screw up and say Medicare. Roll with it. Just roll with it. You know what I mean. If I'm talking about paying for old folks' homes, I'm talking about Medicaid. Just roll with it. But, you know, I just, folks, pretty please. They're telling you to your face, the American dream is too much. Our donors, we're going to serve them. We're not going to do anything. And I will tell you, two red lines: elections, which they have not moved to end elections. They haven't. We've got a special election coming up in April. We've got midterms coming up. But if they interfere with elections, and I'm not talking about trying to pass voter suppression laws. I'm not talking about all the crap that is part of the Republican elections. I'm talking about they literally try to interfere with people showing up because they are losing their base, folks. They are. I told you, their objectives for Johnny Got Rocks hurts their own base. Pain is a terrific motivator. They will lose their base. As those lines start getting filled out in that budget, you know, you've already got employees all over social media that were right-wingers. I voted for Trump and you ruined my life. As more and more of that pain comes home. This was the 2025 project, folks. The idea was to knock us on our heels so that when that pain actually comes, there's no one to resist. We've attacked our own leaders. We've attacked Hakeem Jeffries, who by all will be a fantastic Speaker of the House. He does an amazing job of getting all of our ships to sail in the same direction. But I've got really dumb people all over social media that want to seem smart that just keep attacking Hakeem Jeffries. And they don't understand even the basics of political strategy. You want some inside baseball? You want some real inside baseball? I can tell you exactly what the strategists are telling Hakeem Jeffries. I can tell you exactly what they're telling Hakeem Jeffries. Alistair Crimson, McAfee for burying Canada last night on TV. Yeah. It more and more things are going to be happening that are just not even just in the political sphere, just happening elsewhere that are going to keep people motivating and moving. We have over 4,000 people, almost 4,200 people right now. Hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. Subscribing is not like buying a magazine subscription or anything. It's just the follow button. That's all it is. Give me a follow, hit the subscribe button so that you can find my content. Jerry Collins, Elon Nuts working with Putin to destroy the Constitution so he can be America's dream. Trump is just a useful idiot to the end. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. This is why Democrats are doing exactly what they're doing. And you've got these people on social media that are like, start a revolution for me. I'm a clerk at Walmart and I know. Jeffries isn't doing enough. Let me tell you what the strategy is. The inside baseball of what the political strategists, not the people that run the government, those things are still bifurcated in the Democratic Party. To a degree, I think is too much, to be honest with you. More politics should be in our policies, but that's just me. I'm trying to pull the party that direction. This is what the strategists are saying. This will blow up. Everything that they want to do that we cannot legally stop them from doing, for the most part, will blow up in their faces. It's going to hurt their own people. So what you do not do as a Democrat right now is you do not go out and you give Fox News and all of the other new little foxlets that are all over the place. You do not give them video and talking points and sound bites of you saying anything that will interfere with Republicans hurting their base. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. When your enemy is making a mistake, do not interrupt him. That is the strategy they're giving. It is maddening. It is painful to sit here because everybody wants somebody to stand up and say, I'm going to stop this shit now. And it can't be done. Folks, they spent 5 years planning this with unlimited amounts of money. They're doing it through executive order for a reason. They knew it would take time to fight this in the courts. No, I don't want the Democrats out there giving Fox News footage. Let the Republicans hurt their own. We're not in power right now. We couldn't pass legislation if we wanted to. We can't even call a committee meeting. So no, why feed them talking points that will just allow? How many times have you seen the Republicans? U.S. aid is a perfect example. They're starving children and killing vulnerable people and also making it more dangerous for us in that diseases can spread easier. They're politically hurting us, but they made it okay overnight with their base because Fox News told their base there was fraud. There was fraud. There was fraud. So it's all okay. It's all okay. They can all sleep at night starving babies to death because there was fraud, which there wasn't. But that doesn't matter. That's the reality of their media sphere. They were able to overnight make it okay to starve babies to death just by telling them there was fraud. Okay, that's U.S. aid. That isn't directly hurting them. This cutting Medicaid, this cutting of federal jobs, everything else they're doing is directly hurting their base. And their base is showing up at the town halls pissed. That gives we Democrats an opportunity to either A, have them stay home, or B, hold their nose and cross the aisle. Long shot on that second one because of all the craziness they've been told forever. But what you do not want out of Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer is to give Fox News anything that is an excuse that will allow them to accept all of this terrible things as, yeah, it's necessary. It's got to happen. Look at what those Democrats are doing. Look at what Hakeem Jeffries has said. And let's be honest, their base are bigots. Hakeem Jeffries is black. They're willing to accept anything horrible that Fox News says about Hakeem Jeffries. That's the real inside baseball, folks. It really is. Yes, it's maddening. It is just infuriating to see. But it is the best strategy. If you want to save the country, go through these next elections and actually make some gains. Mark Miller, the mapping of the minerals was done in late 70s and 80s. Even the oil and gas is a joke, because if they had, it would be produced. That's why Biden said no cause. He said the reserves aren't there. Yeah, it is. It's all old Soviet era crap. It is. Randy Ryder, thank you for being here, sir. First, the idiot insulted McCain, and then he gave control to Muskrat. Now he's insulting Zelenskyy. What is coming now? Something will come. Something will come. It's the way they operate. There will be something new this week. Something new and outrageous this week, because that's the way they work. They govern via distraction. And when it gets bad enough, it'll be military. He'll start a conflict. He'll put American troops in harm's way just to have a distraction, just to keep his base from sitting and thinking for a minute. Man, this sucks. He's got to keep giving him an enemy. So yeah, I get it. It's not what you want. You want Democrats out there that are promising you, like Trump is promising you, I'll fix this. I'll make everything okay, and this is how. It's normal to want that. It is. But it's not the best strategy. It's really not. What's coming and right soon is NATO withdrawal. I believe that also. I do. I believe that also. Because what's going to happen, Trump has screwed this up so badly. He's lost anything. And think about it. He wanted those mineral rights badly for Putin. What leverage does he have now to get them? Europe has said, okay, we're on our own. We're going to have to stop this if we're going to stop this at all. If anything, Ukraine is now incentivized to give those mineral rights to Europe, to cajole Germany, to cajole, France, give Macron the excuse he needs. Those fence sitters in France and the UK. If anything, Trump's stupidity, ham-handed stupidity, has actually handed this to Europe. Zelenskyy has no incentives at all anymore, because he knows any security guarantee would be a joke. And I'll tell you, I didn't plan to talk about this. I planned this for another show. I will touch on it. You know who is being shockingly bold and confronting Russia? Historically, this isn't, if you read and follow history, this isn't surprising. But if you're only attuned to recent history, it will shock the shit out of you. Can you folks guess? I love how informed you are. I wonder, and they are right now widely considered the second most powerful military, and it's not Russia and it's not China. The second most powerful military on the planet. And they are directly, I knew it. I didn't even get to finish, and I knew you would know. Turkey. Yes, Turkey. Turkey is 100% challenging Russia directly. They can literally throttle the Black Sea. They can end Russia's dominance anywhere in any trade because they must have Black Sea trade. And Turkey has the military to back it up. And they've got the agreements with Europe. They've got, yes, Turkey, I know, right? People have, Erdogan has been very quietly upgrading his military. He has been very quietly gaining influence in the Middle East. His goal has been to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. That has been his goal. And he has been very quietly and very deftly making it happen. And historically, Turkey and Russia hate each other. They have pissed in each other's soup for centuries. And right now, Turkey is one of Ukraine's best friends. Turkey is escorting Ukrainian ships through the Black Sea, daring Russia to interfere. Russia had started to mine areas where Ukrainian shipping had to go through, and Turkey drove its ships into the middle of it and said, I dare you, let one of our ships hit one of your mines and see what happens. Kay Allen, strategic imperative is EU, NATO independence from the USA. Yes, Turkey and Ukraine mixed in. Yes, I am telling you, my friends, I know a lot of you are here from Europe. I am telling you, I am sorry. I will be apologizing for the next 50 years if I live that long. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And no one will ever trust us again. Even when we get the Republicans out, you have to understand what's changed. No one will ever trust us again. And I think I saw one of you mentioning Norway. Yep, there it is. Yeah, this just happened, folks. One of Norway's largest. Look, ships use oil. They do. They use oil. We've got some very high-end nuclear-powered boats. They still need oil, but neither here nor there. Support ships, everything. Ships still use oil. They do. Russia's largest oil logistics, Norway's largest oil logistics company, after the way Volodymyr Zelenskyy was treated in the White House and seeing what we Americans are doing, just told us, do not bring your ships to Norway. We will not service them. Yeah. Get out. I mean, it's really happening, folks. And I have to tell you something. Their base isn't going to, they're not going to hear it from Fox News. Fox News is never going to run that story. But they'll hear it from you, and then they'll fact check it because you'll throw it in their face. And then they'll see, oh, shit, yeah. That incredibly vital waterway in which we keep ships to be a check on the old Russian Soviets, former Soviets. No service in Norway. Yep. So anyways, folks, that was the whole point of today's show. We're really marching down this road. We really are. And the things I keep warning you about really keep coming true. They do. This is happening today. Look, you know me. I have supported the Palestinian people and the right to their own homeland for forever and a day. I didn't go along with the craziness that was pushed by Russian trolls. You know, some teenager in a mail order keffiyeh on TikTok. No, I'm not going to listen to him. And I also support Israel. I do. There is a left in Israel that is not Netanyahu, that is not Itamar Ben-Gvir, isn't Bezalel Smotrich. It isn't. There is a left in Israel that wants to get along with its neighbors. They don't deserve to be ended as a country. They don't. That would be like everybody saying America deserves to end forever because of Trump. How crazy would that be? But I told you, this peace deal was only to get Trump elected. That's all it was. The far right in Israel had already negotiated. You can go back and watch the show where I talked about it. They already negotiated. After phase 1, we would go back to war. We being Israel talking. We would go to war again. The fighting would resume. Guess what? Phase 1 is over. And this just happened. I told you. Look at the date, March 2nd. Bombing's going to resume. I don't give it 2 days before fighting resumes. Both sides have said negotiations on phase 2 have completely stalled and they're going back to war. They are. I told you that was the deal. The right wingers, Netanyahu is an evil man. He is, and there are people worse than him in Israel. I call him out all the time, even though, yes, I support Israel's right to exist. That's like me saying the Palestinians don't have a right to their own nation because of Hamas. That's how stupid that is. That's why I would never support any of that nonsense, the flat out Israel hate that I saw bubble up. I would not support it because it's not real. It's not what's really going on in the world. No, Hamas is not every Palestinian. No, Netanyahu is not every Israeli. And even the countries surrounding them, they don't want this. Jordan doesn't want this. Saudi Arabia just wants to sell oil, man. They're tired of these radicals. They're tired of having to fight these radicals. It's only Iran, who is backed by Russia, who's now supported by Trump. And if we don't screw up, and if we don't give Fox News a bunch of talking points, and we don't say stupid things and get ahead of it, yes, the Trump regime is a compilation of idiots. They will fail. Even before you start factoring in their perverted, bizarre, radical, disgusting worldviews, they're just idiots. They're going to fail. Government does important things, and it's not easy. It's complicated. It requires smart people, and they can't do it. They were going to fail. But their agenda makes it twice as bad because their agenda to serve Johnny Gotrocks and the Broligarchs hurts their own base. And that pain will come because for years and decades and decades and decades, we Democrats, with no thinking whatsoever, stopped all of it. And people just took it as normal. This is just life. This is the way it is. No, it was Democrats stopping this shit from happening. I have been screaming at the top of my lungs for decades. They want your Social Security because they don't want to pay the taxes. They want to kill it so they don't have to pay employment taxes. That was real, folks. That wasn't made up. That wasn't to scare you to get you to vote. No, it was real. Because every damn negotiation that was really happening on the Hill, Democrats had to start from a position of defeating that. And then I got people like the idiot that was here in the beginning that are preaching to me about Hakeem Jeffries, and he doesn't even know everything that the Democrats have been doing forever. He just took it for frickin' granted. And now I'm supposed to shit on them? No, no, no. No, I will hold the line. That is what I will do. Because I want the country we had before Trump. I want that country for my granddaughter that is sitting 2 rooms over, patiently waiting for me to finish this broadcast so she can go spend the afternoon with her papa. It's not academic for me. And I cannot suffer fools. Yep. Well, I love you folks. I really do. Things like you knowing who I was talking about before I even got to Turkey. I tell you all the time, it is not hyperbole. It is not me kissing my ass. Thank you for letting me spend time with you. You know, I've worked several, I was blue collar most of my life. I really was, because I didn't know where I wanted to go in life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I've always been able to see the big picture, always been able to reason things out, but I've never really had a place in this world where I put it to work. And I found my place, and it's with you people. So when I say I love you folks, and I am grateful, and I couldn't do it without you, and I am so grateful, you gave that to me. And we're making a difference. I mean, how freaking great is that? Hold the line, baby. Hold the line. And with that, I will say, enjoy some Texas cities at night.